This is version 2 of my fully automatic terracotta factory, which is able to convert a raw input of bone meal into terracotta with no player input. This contraption does the entire process of creating stone, creating azalea saplings, turning these saplings into rooted dirt, converting the rooted dirt into mud, drying the mud into clay, and finally automatically smelting the clay into terracotta. This farm has rates of about 1,650 terracotta blocks per hour, as well as a cost of around about 8,800 bone meal per hour, plus an extra 2,000 logs on the side. Anyways, welcome back to the channel everybody. It's been a little while since the last video due to a couple months of rough university work. But I'm back and I am ready to do some redstoning and industrial farm creation. So yeah, the first thing I decided to do was revisit an old contraption I made about a year ago about the fully automatic creation of terracotta from bone meal, inspired by the addition of the crafter. Alright, so before I explain the entire contraption and the changes I had to make, let's do a quick recap as to how this design works. So the main goal of the system is to somehow produce this clay block which can be turned into terracotta. So the way we go about doing that is by first having a stone generator, just like this. So now once we have our stone created, we bone meal some moss to spread the moss to this, and now what you can do here, you can bone meal the surface until you get yourself an azalea plant, just like this. And now you will see once we bone meal this azalea plant, it creates a tree, but more importantly, it creates this rooted dirt block over here. And now what is very special about this block, like any other dirt block in the game, this can be turned into mud with a bit of water like that. And also very importantly, you can automate this process using a dispenser. Now using a little bit of dripstone magic, this piece of mud can be dried out into a block of clay. And of course you can then smelt this in a furnace to create a block of terracotta, just like so. And those are the simplified steps that we have to follow to create our terracotta. And you can probably tell that that process takes quite a while, so to maximize the speed of the design, we also decided to use zero ticking to push the blocks across. And this you will find later on was the main cause of the problems in my first design, because of Minecraft and its really stupid zero ticking system. But yeah, we'll get to that later. So like before, this contraption is split into various sections. Of course, the first one being the on and off switch, which is a simple lever that turns the entire system on. Secondly, we have our stone generation, which creates about 18 blocks of stone in total. If I go into spectator, you will see that these stone blocks get zero ticked into here. And secondly, we have our moss and tree creation setup. Here you can see that the azalea is bone mealed and the rooted dirt is pushed out. And another thing you can see is that the logs from the azalea trees are pushed out to the side over here. And we have a bit of a simple TNT setup just to break the logs and, let us use a bit for our smelting. Of course, this isn't the most efficient blast chamber in the world. I just wanted to make it a bit more simple for people to build, because the logs aren't really the goal of this farm. Now, once we have done all the bone mealing and tree creation, we have the mud making setup. And all it does here is dispense water bottles into the rooted dirt blocks that come past and turns it into mud. Right over here, it also automatically creates new water bottles and replenishes the cycle, so no water bottles are wasted. Then we have the mud drying platforms, where I just have 3 layers to dry out the mud. And you can see that some of these are already all dried up, but that is just because I've been turning the farm on and off. And you kind of need all 3 layers to dry out 99% of the mud blocks. And then finally we have a little blast chamber here as well, where the clay will be pushed in and blown up into its clay balls. And the final step of the process is to autocraft the clay balls that we get from the chamber into our clay blocks, which can then get smelted, as you can see over here. Alright, so let's get into the major problems that I originally had with this design that kind of obstructed most people from being able to build the system. So right here we have our original design, and here is where one of the major differences are from the old system and the current system. This system only had one method of zero ticking these blocks. As you can see, if I unpower this line and I send in some blocks to be zero ticked over here, that side works, and that side works. But sometimes you will find that these pistons do not zero tick from this over here. And the reason for that is that Minecraft's redstone is locational, which is a really stupid thing, and don't get me started on how much it annoys me, but this means that depending on where you are in the world, these pistons will get zero ticked from different places. So it might be a piston on this side of it or on this side of it to kind of update how this piston works. Before I get carried away, let me try explain zero ticking a bit better. Let's pretend we had none of these extra pistons and we tried to push this. You will see that it gets pushed, it gets pushed almost instantly. But you can see that there is still some delay when you push the blocks. But now, if I add another piston that updates this piston to actually fire, it goes a bit faster. Like that. And this is incredibly important for this farm because the entire system runs off zero ticking blocks. So even if one of the pistons in the entire system is delayed, it will cause a blockage and will break the entire system. So that is what happened in the original video I made. So I had to go and readjust the system to work for any location in the entire world, which was quite a pain because I had to go and place this schematic over and over and over again until I found an error and I finally decided on a version that works. So first off, I had to create this change. And basically what this is, I have a piston in the middle and a piston in the corner here that will trigger these two middle pistons to fire and zero tick the blocks. So no matter where you are in the world, you will get that instant push just like this. And yeah, it was quite tricky because there was a lot of redstone around the system and I had to like squeeze it into these perfect spots. Alright, now that I've told you that depending on the location in the world, a piston needs more than two sides to be zero ticked to be consistent, this is where another problem comes in. This is a pretty standardized zero ticking design right here. It's got a piston on the top and the bottom to trigger this one. And you can see, well, you think, oh, that works pretty amazingly. But I've found that in certain cases, this design does not actually work. For reasons I don't particularly know, sometimes the top and bottom piston will not fire before this one. So as you can see here, the bottom piston is firing at the same time as this one. But in certain cases, this middle one will fire first, and these two won't even fire at all. Meaning that the blocks are not pushed in a zero tick manner, but rather a one tick manner, which is a little bit too slow for the system. So I scrapped this design, and I came up with this one. Ignore the sticky piston, that depends on the setup, but the main important thing that I discovered was the use of the target block. And now using this design, no matter where I've placed it in the world, it is always consistent. And I have a feeling it might have something to do with this redstone running alongside this middle piston, which gives it an update, causing it to fire. But I don't know, man, Minecraft redstone is really weird, so I will just take it as it comes. I gave it a try and it worked. Like they say in programming, when you're learning, you question why it doesn't work. But when you're experienced, you question why it does work. So yeah, these are the two major changes I made to the system. As you can see, I've implemented them over here, both here and there, a little bit in the back here as well, and finally in this main system over here, you can see the other system I implemented, and over here with these two target blocks. So yeah, now with these changes implemented, you can be rest assured that this design will work if you build it correctly and there is no locational issues, and it should not get clogged ever. And if it does, I should be able to help you find a solution because I've now guaranteed that this design can work in any location. And yeah, once again, I'll just show you the system working at 10 times the speed. So now that our trays of dried clay have been filled up. You can see the blast chamber is now being used to destroy the clay and turn it into clay balls, which is then collected and smelted, as you can see right over here. If I take a look in these furnaces, you will see that we are refreshing it with clay all the time, and it is getting smelted into this chest over here. If you want to take a look at the crafter, this is what is going on right now, and this chest gets filled up, and this hopper minecart gets all the clay it needs to evenly distribute it amongst the furnaces. Any extra mud that is collected is filtered out, and all the extra logs are placed in this chest over here. So yeah, if you guys are interested in building this design, I have left a world download and schematic in the video description with the new updated version. And of course, if you have any questions of the design, join the Discord in the description, and I will help you with any problems that you may have, whether it's just about the design in general or building it. And if you're having trouble building a TNT Juper just like this, there's many tutorials online how to set it up. So yeah, it shouldn't be too hard. So yeah, thank you guys for watching this video. I hope you enjoyed it. I hope this farm now works perfectly and you guys can build it in your survival worlds. So yeah, see you guys in the next video.